Critical Role's via Amazon Prime, The Legend of Vox Machina is an animated series that raised over $11 million on Kickstarter. The first season for Critical Role and Critters was a dream come true, as Matt, Liam, Laura, Taliesin, Travis, Marisha, and Sam had only hoped to raise enough funds for a single 22-minute special. The outcome? Fans raised insane amounts of money and they blew past their $750,000 goal in less than an hour. By the end of the Kickstarter campaign, they were left with enough funds to produce a 10-episode season. And after shopping around, they managed a deal with Amazon that landed them 2 additional episodes for Season 1 and a guaranteed additional 12-episode Season 2. How did Season 1 of The Legend of Vox Machina turn out? Hi everyone, I'm Billy, and if you're new to Current Kick, I've been reviewing each weekly released 3-episode batch of The Legend of Vox Machina here on my channel. I'm a critter, the designated name for fans of Critical Role, but I fell in love with Campaign 2, the story of the Mighty Nine, and not Vox Machina, as they were Campaign 1 before my time. My experience with Vox Machina was minimal, only watching some one-shots here and there, and basically clips of Grog with, and I'll say this without spoilers, his fun magical item. So other than that and reading some wiki entries, I'm a Campaign 1 noob. For this Season 1 review, let me start out by saying, for backers and Campaign 1 veterans, I understand that this is amazing. Critical Role was able to create the show the way they wanted to have it. They had full creative control in their deal with Amazon, so if you think this is a 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, and A+, or whatever, awesome. I'm happy you loved it. I know a lot of moments and scenes are completely fan service, but for my personal review preferences, I'll be critiquing The Legend of Vox Machina as a standalone animated series. Art and animation. The art style of The Legend of Vox Machina is simply amazing. It's got that, I don't know what to call it, American anime style? Character designs and background art are all fantastic. I have some issues with the animation here and there, maybe a bit too many scenes of lips flapping on mostly static frames of animation, but I understand that's going to be the case during a lot of non-action sequences. My issues mostly come from the use of CGI. I thought that the Dragon Brim Scythe looked pretty bad, as CGI can look very out of place without the proper budget. The cart chase with the undead werewolves pop out for me as kind of looking out of place. That isn't to say that all is bad. I'm pretty sure some of the battle sequences in episode 11 used CGI during the battle against Silas, and I think it was great. That's one of my favorite parts of the entire season. But overall, I found the majority of battle sequences to be pretty disappointing, especially since this is a band of adventurers that do a lot of fighting. To me, it seemed as if they saved their budget for episodes 11 and 12, or it's possible that Amazon took care of funding for those final 2 episodes since it was part of their original 14-episode expansion order. Many of the fights were more implied than actually shown. Lots of quick cuts and arm swinging, but not a lot of cool choreographed action. Writing and pacing. I can't really criticize the plot or character decisions of Season 1 because it's literally based on the events of Campaign 1, and being critical of choices made by Vox Machina would be kind of silly, because obviously it's from a game of Dungeons & Dragons. What I can criticize in Season 1 is the writing and pacing from the writers and the showrunner. Pacing for me was a huge problem. The first 2 episodes, The Terror of Tal'Dorei, the pacing is super fast. Everything flies by. I really think that this arc would have benefited from a little bit more screen time. It would have been fantastic as a one-off special had it been an hour or 90 minutes long, and not directly related to Season 1, at least not at the beginning of the series. Alas, it was always supposed to be this way from the start due to the Kickstarter campaign. The first goal was a new story that took place off-camera before the events of the first streamed episode of Critical Role. Unfortunately, I just thought it was a terrible introduction to the show. Everything is turned up past 11, the comedy, the vulgarity. We literally have Keyleth puking inside the mouth of some guy she's fighting and Scanlan about to have sex, animated boobs and all. But these episodes are fan service and were supposed to be. But a lot of the writing just didn't make sense to me. Gilmore, for example, has a sword of dragon slaying that is too much money for Vox Machina to buy. So why doesn't Uriel buy it for them? He winds up giving them a whole keep. He can't buy them a sword that aids in killing dragons when a dragon is literally destroying towns across Tal'Dorei? Or what about the fact that Uriel seems to hire Vox Machina simply because they have a bear and he liked their song? And speaking about the bear, why does Trinket get left behind? I completely forgot about him until I rewatched the season. I assumed he was a big part of Vox Machina and the events of the Briarwood arc. Throughout the season, I found there to be too many of these little quips that characters would give, almost as if they were thinking out loud to inform the viewer of their emotions and their thoughts.
Okay, come on. You got this. No one ever suspects the scan man, right? Right? Yeah, right. It's kind of weird.
I don't know how you do this better, but they just fell out of place and sounded awkward to me. It doesn't help that I found the voice acting to be subpar for Scanlan, Keyleth, and for the first half of Grog. I found Sam Scanlan's performance to sound as if he was just sort of reading lines, very robotic.
Yeah, she'll be back. You keep an eye on that house. I'll go get the others.
Scanlan in general, I didn't really like as a character, so that doesn't help, obviously. Although from the Scambo sequence on, I found him to be tolerable. Marisha's Keyleth was overacted, a problem I typically have with anime dubs. Some of this goes with the writing, as she's supposed to be unsure and questioning herself until we see growth. She did save their asses quite a few times, but I found a lot of her dialogue and delivery to be awkward.
Wait, what? Now? I mean, this is like the worst time!
Grog was hit or miss for me. I blame the writing mostly for this. The sandwich scene stands out, but I sort of forgot about my issues towards the end because Grog had some amazing moments. That smile when he's about to kill some of the Dorolo zombies, the acid dive, and really all the battles with Silas. The rest of Vox Machina were great, with Talison's Percy standing way above everyone else for me, and that makes sense since he was basically the star of the show for this arc. The combination of terror and vengeance that Percy expresses was truly well done. He was my favorite character by far. Vax and Vex sounded and looked great, but were maybe a little bit forgettable. Pike, I'm sort of indifferent about. Side note, I checked out about half the season with the Japanese dub, which pretty much turns it into an anime, so for you sub-snob/dub anime haters out there, maybe check that out. It's interesting, but I personally wound up just sticking with our nerdy-ass voice actors. Bringing this back around to the plot, the Briarwood arc is fascinating to me, so much so that I'm 100% sure that I'm going to start watching Campaign 1 when I'm done, and expect a video on my thoughts compared to the animated series at some point. But I just found Season 1 to have so many pacing issues. Episode 3 starts this arc, and while it, along with Episode 4, are great, I would say Episode 4 is actually fantastic. Episodes 5 through 9, the first two I consider bad and the rest are just good. My issues mostly stemming from the pacing. Take a look at Episode 5. We're back to complete fan service. Another run-in with Gilmore, a long rest at a campfire that doesn't progress the plot along as it's just more callbacks to Campaign 1. Tie that together with a poor CGI chase scene with even worse looking undead werewolves, and this episode is really only saved by the reveal of Whitestone and the Sun Tree's hangers. The following episodes revolve heavily around a bunch of rebels that I honestly didn't really care about. A lot of precious episode minutes are spent with everyone conversing and deciding what to do next, who should lead, etc. These episodes could have actually used some faster pacing, spent time on more character development, or even a longer Scanbo sequence. I mean, how many times did we have to cut back to Pike attempting to get her Everlight powers back? Yes, Ashley was away from the game at this point, but we didn't need to go there once or twice an episode to see her fail continuously. It was almost as if they wanted to make sure Ashley got in some voice time each episode because there really wasn't anything for her to do until Pike's glorious return. Luckily, the Briarwood arc's pacing issues I had were mostly forgotten about considering the season wrapped up with 3 fantastic episodes and a must-see more final scene of warning bells and dragons. Overall, I enjoyed this first season, but I think it's just good and not great. I give Season 1 of The Legend of Vox Machina a 3 out of 5. A comment suggested I split my review up between the full season and just the Briarwood arc, and while I originally thought this made sense, I ultimately decided to stick with one score for the whole season, as that's how it's presented to us. That being said, while the Brimscythe arc was amazing fan service, I personally thought it was a bad introduction. The cartoonish tone and lightning-fast pacing just does not match the subsequent Briarwood arc, and I wonder if first-time Critical Role viewers stuck with the show long enough to see Percy's tale of vengeance and revenge. Had this been some random fantasy series that I stumbled upon, I don't think I would have made it past the first 2 episodes. The Briarwood arc, I found bad to okay episodes sandwiched between amazing ones. Shocking twists and fantastic boss battles were not enough to outweigh some of the poor writing and slow pacing issues, so I maintain my opinion that it is just good and not great. If you haven't seen my reviews for each batch of episodes, I created a playlist here. Let me know what you thought of Critical Role's first season of The Legend of Vox Machina. Do you agree or disagree with my points? Like this video and subscribe for more anime, movies, and TV videos. And until next time, see ya.